The girl was stunned the first time she saw her grandfather.
Kid.
Unexpectedly, her aunt simply ran away, leaving the girl alone by the roadside.
Hey! Street! Name street!
Her grandfather even tried to shoo her off, but the girl had lost both parents, and now her aunt had abandoned her too. She had nowhere to go. Her grandfather ignored her. He slammed the door shut, hoping she would take the hint and leave, but the girl stood at the door, calling out for her grandfather over and over again. Her tender voice tugged at his heartstrings, yet he steeled himself and stayed hidden inside. Heidi glanced at the sheep pen nearby, and spent the night inside. The next morning, her grandfather came to milk the sheep. Heidi hurried over to greet him, but her grandfather remained silent, simply scooping a ladle of goat milk for her. Heidi happily drank it all in one go, but then her grandfather said he would send her away that afternoon. He took Heidi to see the pastor. After a checkup, the pastor said Heidi was healthy and easy to care for, but her grandfather insisted he wouldn't adopt her. The pastor said he would try to find a good home for her, otherwise, she would have to go to an orphanage. Until then, Heidi would have to stay with her grandfather. Back home, Heidi cautiously asked her grandfather where she should sleep that night. Heidi decisively gave up on the sheep pen, and chose her grandfather's house. Unfortunately, there was no bed for her in the room, so she climbed up to the hay-filled attic, and asked if she could sleep there. Her grandfather looked at her, and answered with silence. During the meal, Heidi gathered her courage, and told her grandfather she didn't want to go to the orphanage. Her grandfather paused but said nothing. Heidi grew anxious. The next morning, warm sunlight woke Heidi in the grass. On the distant hillside, a young shepherd was driving a flock of sheep toward them. Thrilled, she rushed out of the room, drank a full bowl of goat milk, washed her face with clear spring water, and then let the lambs out. The shepherd boy, Peter, approached her grandfather. Her grandfather gave him some breakfast, and asked him to take Heidi up the mountain to tend the sheep. Delighted, Heidi followed Peter up toward the peak. The mountain breeze blew gently, and Heidi happily played with the lambs, enjoying a rare moment of freedom. Suddenly, Peter noticed two lambs fighting. He raised his whip to strike them, but Heidi couldn't bear to see the lambs hurt, so she bribed Peter with her own lunch. Peter made her promise not to tell her grandfather, because everyone said he had once killed a man. Heidi never imagined her grandfather could be so cruel. When she returned home, her face was clouded with worry. She even offered to sleep in the sheep pen again. Her grandfather guessed she had heard the rumors. Unable to let it go, Heidi asked him directly whether he had really killed someone. Her grandfather didn't answer directly. Instead, he patiently told her, "People love to make up lies. Seeing is believing. Don't trust gossip lightly." After a few minutes of thought, Heidi rushed forward and hugged her grandfather. She chose to believe he was kind. With his granddaughter's trust and embrace, the warmth of kinship slowly began to awaken in her grandfather's blood. On the hillside, Heidi and Peter laughed and played together, their innocent childhood shining brightly in them. Peter thought they would be friends for a long time, but Heidi told him her grandfather would send her away in 3 days. This saddened Peter deeply. He turned and shouted angrily at the sheep to vent his frustration. That evening, when she returned home, Heidi noticed a new chair by the dining table. Learning it was made for her, she was overjoyed. It turned out her grandfather had silently agreed to let her stay. She leaped into his arms to thank him. From then on, Heidi tended sheep with Peter. They basked in the sun by the lake, ran and played in the mountains, and chatted on the grassy fields, until one day, when Peter had to go to town for school, the two faced separation. Soon, the Alps were covered in snow. Trapped on the mountain, Heidi missed her friend terribly. To fulfill her wish, her grandfather took her down the mountain on a sled. They sped across the snow, excited Heidi like a fiery summer, and her gentle grandfather like a soft autumn. Together, they could turn the winter around them into spring. Soon, Heidi arrived at Peter's home, where only his mother and blind grandmother lived. The house was bare, with almost no fine furniture in sight. Heidi handed the bread she brought to the grandmother, but the grandmother said it was too hard. She had lost all her teeth and couldn't chew it. This seemingly small incident saddened Heidi. That night, her grandfather came to take Heidi home. She fell asleep peacefully on his back. Winter passed, spring returned, and everything came back to life. One day, Heidi's aunt came to her grandfather's house again. She said she had found a good place for Heidi, to be a companion for a wealthy girl. In truth, she wanted to sell Heidi to a rich family. Her grandfather had grown attached to Heidi. Furious, he chased the aunt away, but driven by the high referral fee, the aunt went straight to Heidi, and lied, saying her grandfather didn't want her anymore. Heartbroken, Heidi could only leave with her aunt. By the time her grandfather realized what had happened, it was too late. He could only return home dejected. The kinship he had finally built was shattered by reality once again. Heidi was taken to a grand manor. The housekeeper scrutinized her carefully, then handed a large sum of money to her aunt. Heidi knew she had been abandoned once more. She felt sad. Fortunately, the young lady, Clara, did not make things difficult for Heidi, and quickly became familiar with her. But the housekeeper was hard to get along with. Even during meals, Heidi had to follow strict rules. Alps. When Heidi lifted her bowl to drink soup directly, the housekeeper sternly said she must use utensils, complaining that Heidi didn't even know basic manners. Clara comforted Heidi, saying she could learn everything slowly, and not to worry. But when soft, golden bread was served, Heidi thought of Peter's grandmother. She secretly hid a piece, hoping to let the grandmother taste bread she could actually chew. The housekeeper saw it and scolded her on the spot. Here, you must be refined. Whether eating, sleeping, or interacting with others, you must be noble and elegant, with no uncouth behavior. But Heidi hardly listened. Clara couldn't help but remind the housekeeper that Heidi had already fallen asleep. In her dreams, Heidi returned to the Alps, but reality was cruel. She slept in a luxurious room, yet felt no warmth at all. The servants washed her clean, dressed her in beautiful dresses, and then began rigorous lessons in etiquette. Heidi's arrival brought Clara a long-lost sense of childlike joy, studying and reading together during lessons. In their free time, she showed Heidi her mother's portrait and shared memories. The two grew closer. During a nap, Heidi asked the manservant to open the window. She wanted to see the Alps where her grandfather lived, but she was quickly disappointed. All around were tall buildings. The manservant told Heidi she would have to go to the highest church to see the mountains. So the next day, Heidi secretly pushed open the gate and sneaked out with Clara. The lively atmosphere outside set their spirits free. They went to the church, and Clara kindly let Heidi go up while she waited below. From the top of the tower, Heidi looked out, but there were no Alps in sight, only houses billowing dark smoke. Deeply disappointed, back to the castle. To punish Heidi, the housekeeper ordered her to go without dinner and reflect on her actions. She even threatened that if it happened again, Heidi would be locked in a dark room. Desperate, Heidi decided to leave. She packed her belongings and said goodbye to Clara, but the housekeeper stopped her, saying that without the Baron's permission, she couldn't go anywhere. Heidi struggled desperately. Seeing Heidi so determined, Clara was deeply saddened. Overwhelmed, she fell ill in bed.
Ist denn so schrecklich, dass du nicht bleiben willst?
Nein, das ist es doch nicht.
Ich hab doch nur dich, Heidi. Wir können das auch zusammen schön haben.
Heidi's heart softened. She decided to stay for Clara's sake, but it meant sacrificing her own happiness. Life in the castle brought her no joy. As time passed, Heidi would dream of her grandfather in the mountains, and the eagles soaring in the sky at night. Perhaps her longing became an illness. Heidi began sleepwalking, going to the door every night, and gazing in the direction of the Alps. The doctor told the Baron that if this continued, Heidi might fall into depression. Finally, he decided to send Heidi home, but Clara, who had finally found a companion, was unwilling to let her go. She argued fiercely with her father, and angrily locked herself in her room, not even coming out to say goodbye when Heidi left. Heidi took the eagle carved by her grandfather and asked the Baron to give it to Clara. Then, accompanied by the manservant, she soon returned to her village. She first went to Peter's house and gave that soft breads to his grandmother. The grandmother was overjoyed. Satisfied, Heidi returned to the valley. She took off her expensive coat, ran barefoot toward her long-waiting grandfather, and leaped into his arms. It is said that all feasts must come to an end, but it is also said that paths will cross again somewhere in life. Her grandfather held Heidi tightly, cherishing his granddaughter even more now that she was back. Everything in the mountains was the best medicine. Heidi's condition healed without treatment, and she became that wild girl again, drinking goat milk heartily, washing her face with mountain spring water, and going up the mountain every day with Peter to tend the sheep. Another winter came. In order for Heidi to be able to read, Grandpa voluntarily moved down the mountain. In class, the teacher asked everyone what they wanted to be when they grew up. Peter said he wanted to be a shepherd. Heidi said she wanted to be a writer. Everyone laughed at Heidi for daydreaming, but Heidi, having seen the wider world, stood firm. She wrote letters to Clara about everything in the mountains, hoping Clara could visit the Alps one day. Clara's grandmother learned of her wish, and so one morning Clara and Heidi met again. They eat together, sleep together, and joyfully play side by side. Seeing Heidi and her friend so close, Peter grew jealous of Clara. One day, while Clara wasn't looking, Peter threw her wheelchair down the mountain. Grandfather carried Clara up the hillside, and then found Peter nearby, telling him he would have to face the consequences unless he agreed to take good care of the girl. Clara sat on a rock, gazing at the breathtaking Alps, and the knot in her heart quietly began to unravel. Suddenly, a butterfly landed on her toes. It felt like her mother looking back at her. Clara felt an urge to stand. Peter and Heidi hurried over to support her. With their help, Clara stepped onto the grass, letting nature heal her. A few days later, the Baron and Clara's grandmother came to take her home. When the Baron saw his daughter standing again, he wept with joy. He knew her heart had been healed. Clara's grandmother was deeply grateful to Heidi. Before parting, she gave Heidi a storybook, but when Heidi opened it, the pages were blank. The grandmother handed her a pencil and said that the rest of the story is for you to write. Life's journey is a process from innocence to worldly experience, and from worldly experience back to innocence. Stay curious about the world, and keep your passion for life alive. Perhaps happiness is never somewhere far away. It arrives the moment we dare to be ourselves.